Vince Ferrara, Ferrara. Hey, look, it is Wednesday, June 19th, 2024. We got a great show stored up today, man. No baseball last night because of rain.
I know. I got my shades on today because I want some sunshine so we can play some ball.
Pray for nice weather in Omaha. So Rob Browne, Brenden Martin here with you. We've got smash that subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. Allow notifications on your Android and iPhone. Tell your friends, families, and neighbors, people that you know and don't know. You can sync us live and listen anywhere. We got Jake Wimberly from the Afternoon Drive in Jackson, Mississippi, talking SEC and big picture of college football. Dudley Dawson, hogville.net, and Vince Ferrara, part of the Tennessee Vol Baseball Network, going to talk about Omaha and the Omaha Vols. Hey, sign up. Here we come, Omaha, a second home for Peyton Manning.
Get your pen and paper handy.
Yes.
Game on.
We're coming. Here we come. Game.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, man, we got JW, ESPN 105.9, the Afternoon Drive in Jackson, Mississippi. Listen, folks, put that app on your phone. You want to be informed. What did Mark Twain say? Those who read the newspaper are uninformed. Those who don't read it are misinformed, or whatever it is. If you're not listening to Jake's show in the afternoon, you're missing a lot down in Jackson, Mississippi. Jake, I was listening to our mutual friend Chuck Oliver's Monday morning show, Southern Sports Today, late Monday night. Great show talking about rivalries and what's happened. Hey, Sammy, what's happening with Georgia? You know, Georgia at the turn of the century, Y2K, had a bunch of rivals, big rivals. You know, of course, the Clemson one, not so much, but they're an hour away. South Carolina, Tennessee, Auburn, and Florida. And, of course, you know, Spurrier was 11-1 against Georgia. But you look at that Auburn-Georgia rivalry, Georgia in this millennium is 18-7. The first 10 years, it was 4-6. You know, Georgia 6, Auburn 4 wins. In 2010 to 19, it was 3 for Auburn, 8 for Georgia. And in this decade, so far, it's 0-4. Prior to that, the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, Auburn won every one of those decades. Let's talk about it. The Egg Bowl. That one has really risen in prominence. And I'm telling you, you know, you live in Mississippi, and I'm on top of Mississippi in Memphis, which is the 3 states together anyway. That one's become one of the most intense rivalries because they hate each other. But it's also fueled the rivalry in baseball, basketball, and everything. So you're putting these numbers together, and we're looking at college football. The magazines are coming out. How fired up are you? Just hearing Chuck talk about those rivalries and hearing what's going on at Ole Miss, and Mississippi State won't be able to stand it. They'll do whatever they got to do and go get players because Jeff Lebby can coach. So I'm handing the ball to you, Jake Wimberly. Take over.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Good to be with y'all this morning. And you're right. That Egg Bowl is extremely intense. And, you know, you get down into a lot of these, and there's a lot of jokes around college sports and have been for decades, regardless if you're talking Texas A&M and Texas, which is back this year finally, Auburn, Alabama, the Georgia rivalries you mentioned, or Mississippi State and Ole Miss, kind of a class warfare, right, between the universities as far as the people are concerned.
Yeah.
You know, they fancy themselves opposite of the other, and that spills out onto the field. And, you know, the Egg Bowl is one where, Rob, I know you guys will remember this. I mean, you go back into, you know, Billy Brewer and Jackie Sherrill. I mean, those two programs really did not like each other. No. Some fantastic finishes on both sides, some heartbreaks on both sides. We kind of saw a pause in the quote heat of the rivalry with Ed Orgeron and Sylvester Croom. That thing amped back up with Dan Mullen and Hugh Freeze. And then when you kind of go through the Joe Moorhead, Matt Luke era, there wasn't a whole lot to it as far as heat. Mike Leach, rest in peace, and Lane Kiffin were always kind of a friendly deal. But you get now, it'll be interesting to see how Jeff Levy and Lane Kiffin, who obviously have coached together, I would assume that they're at least acquaintances and maybe friends. But how this is going to go this time, because you talk about that Ole Miss team. I mean, this is a team that is much better on paper than Mississippi State. If you're kind of giving the nod to somebody, I mean, it's Ole Miss right now would probably be somewhere around a 14 or 15 point favorite in that ball game. So the rivalry is always intense. It's always fun, and just what you said. I mean, even though Ole Miss is far out and ahead of Mississippi State, that typically doesn't last too long.
No.
That thing will turn back the other way, and it's just like a pendulum that swings one way to the other.
Brenden, can you pull up on cue those hats they have? I was at Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee yesterday. They've got this company called Acres Down South. I'm wearing one of their shirts right here, these polos. This is deer antlers. The racks on here, it's like probably 1,000 of them on this shirt. But they've got all the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12 schools. And they've got like 4 different shirts for Tennessee. They've got Mississippi State, of course, Ole Miss. But they've also got some hats yesterday. And I've never seen a hat like these hats. And when Brenden pulls them up on the screen, it just kind of says it all. Lane Kiffin's kind of done it with the SIP. But the Junction at Mississippi State, you don't have to pay, I think, copyright or licensing fees when you use state logos and you use the name of the town. So when Brenden can get those up, and I know I'm putting him on the spot, but
yeah, you are putting me on the spot. Rob's like, can you pull up that stuff in 1974, page 2, paragraph 6? Can you get it really fast? And can you collate it for me?
Yes,
please?
Yes.
Now,
can you get video?
I know I
of Jake
emailed you at
Wimberly?
4:30 in the morning, but can you get it to me now? That'd be great.
We need to see Jake Wimberly broadcasting at Rankin, Mississippi, and Brandon, Mississippi games. But you'll see them. But I think what's going on with Ole Miss and Mississippi State right now, it's great for the state. It's great for the economy. And it also makes fundraising on the Mississippi State side. Talk about that. I know talking to people like Tigers Unlimited at Auburn, they say usually our best years are when the football team struggles the most. I think that's going to happen in Starkville.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to see. I mean, look, you want to, and we don't know how far and how wide and deep and long this whole thing is going to go with collectives as far as year after year after year. We'll see with all the antitrust stuff, the NCAA stuff, where we're headed. But for the near future, you're absolutely correct. I mean, you saw Mississippi State baseball just go through this, right? I mean, they went through 2 years of kind of wandering the wilderness after a national title, and then people got involved. And, those people could be from a small gift to, big donors and everybody in between. And, I think what you're seeing now is there's a true youth movement just by attrition that's having to take place in Mississippi State in football. This will be a football team that'll put up some points. It can't get any worse than it was last year. They will look like a better football team. They're just going to be young. They're going to take some lumps and bruises, but you're right, Rob. I mean, as the energy continues to grow around Starkville, and if the rivalry, continues to kind of go like this, the giving for State will start to go like that. So it's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles, so to speak.
Yeah, and I drive around the Mid-South. We travel a lot, but I'm all over in the Delta a lot. I get down in Mississippi. You see these 10, 15, 20,000 acre farms. We're growing cotton, beans, not so much rice down there, but man, there's big money in big farms and agriculture. And a lot of these guys, you don't think they have a lot of money. And trust me, I've seen it firsthand in this business. If you can afford a $750,000 spray rig or combine, you've got money. And Mississippi State's good about tapping in to their ag fan base. And every county in Mississippi has 2 guys like Hank Gimble from Green Acres County Extension Agents. They're probably a lot smarter than Hank Gimble. But, Mississippi State, I've studied this stuff with some big-time state fans. They said those guys over the years have been instrumental in helping state land a lot of kids from these rural towns, these small towns. And the state always gets those kind of kids. They're good kids. They show up ready to work. And how you fight is how you live is their motto, like rumbleboxinggym.com.
No, I would agree with you. And, several high school football coaches that I talked to, especially in the Delta area, they'd say the same thing is, hey, look, and a couple of them are pretty good friends of mine that coach at a pretty high level here in the state in high school football. They said their kids are just different in the Delta. They're different in the country. They're still, they're still tough-nosed kids. They're hard-nosed kids. They have to work on farms. They have to go out and help their granddad with this, help their father with that. And you're right. It is a different type of player. And, so what you get in a lot of times with that is you'll get a guy who plays at a Holmes County Central here in Mississippi, or they play at a Hernando or DeSoto Central, schools that are in the Delta that maybe get overlooked. They don't go to camps as much as some of the other kids do. And maybe they become a 3-star product on the field. I mean, look, we saw this with Chris Jones out of Houston High School many years ago. Dan Mullen just happened to find this kid. He didn't go to a whole lot of camps, got in on him early. His recruitment started to blow up. And of course, we see where he's at now with the Kansas City Chiefs. So it doesn't happen all the time, but those kids are laying out here in the kind of in the weeds in Mississippi.
Well, remember Big Jeff out of Macon, Mississippi, just a few years ago. And I'll tell you, I have seen it firsthand, these little towns like Itta and Leland and Rosedale. Our Uncle Gene was from Rosedale, Mississippi. Ain't much there, but he went on, was a Phi Beta Kappa at Harvard and was our family doctor till he passed away December of 2008. My grandparents are from Helena, just right across the river. But they are special kind of people. And you go down to Clarksdale, you go into Abe's Barbecue, and you sit there, and it's Ole Miss and Mississippi State. I still say the most powerful, magical day in the state of Mississippi ever was October 4th, 2014. We had a dove hunt that morning. We killed 78 birds down in Lambert at the farm. Went into Abe's and Clarksdale for barbecue, and Mississippi State was curb stomping Texas A&M. And later that day, unbeknownst to me, my son Wilson, who I think he had just turned 16, and a bunch of his friends road tripped to Oxford and ended up being on the field after they beat Alabama. And that night, Auburn beat LSU 41-7. I mean, that was a hell of a day. But the College of Engineering at Mississippi State, that's your profit center. I'll bet you money. That's where that and the College of Agriculture, because I built my book of business off a lot of Mississippi State professors and people like that over the years. And they got a great architecture school. The president that you have, Keenum, he's been there for over 20 years. What about the state fans? I don't know if you're familiar with the fugitive poets, the great writers about the Southern agriculture, about the dangers back in the 1920s of leaving the farms and going to big cities. State, they're rooted in dirt. And I think that's why A&M is the same way. Auburn, these ag schools, their fan bases, they ain't about, they want you to win, but they're more about the brick and mortar and the dirt. And that's what makes it different. And that's what causes rivalries. That's my opinion.
No, I agree with you. I mean, if you go back into, you can do it again in Texas with Texas and Texas A&M, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Alabama, Auburn. You can go Clemson, South Carolina, Florida, Florida State. You can go across the country and do this. And typically that's what you'll find is not only are the people different, the teams are different, the schools are different. And that's okay. I mean, like you said, Mississippi State 100% prides itself on high engineering, programs, also veterinary medicine, agriculture, where Ole Miss, leads the state in medicine, leads the state in business. So, and as that goes, so do the people, and they're different, and that is okay. And that's what makes these rivalries so fun is you do kind of an overlap of the people. And that, granted, Ole Miss has got a really good engineering program. Yeah. But Mississippi State, that's their staple. That's what they hang their hat on, outside of agriculture, veterinary medicine, and architecture.
Well, bottom line, what I think is really cool is when you start looking at the different universities, like, say, College of Agriculture at Florida is massive. And Georgia, and Auburn, all these schools. And you think about now, they also work together. I think Auburn and Mississippi State work together to eradicate the boll weevil. And if you go to Enterprise, Alabama, down in the Wiregrass, you will see firsthand. What's the RIP SEC Sideline Sports Network? Brenden, help me, please. But you go to Enterprise, Alabama, there's a giant boll weevil on the town square. It's ginormous, boll weevil. But thinking about with Mississippi State and Ole Miss specifically, you know, you look at support, the poultry business. I know we're getting into it, but this relates to football. In the state of Alabama, the poultry business generates over $15 billion a year and creates over 87,000 jobs. Now, Mississippi, about 2.8 million people, Alabama, about 5.1. I imagine on a prorated per capita basis, it's similar. In Morton, Mississippi, that was where Deuce McAllister, Telemus McAllister came from, and everybody thought he was going to state. But that's when Jackie Sherrill was on the show a couple of weeks ago. I asked him about getting him and Jackie Sherrill on together, and he goes, I will ask Jackie to come on together. I'm like, that'll be fun. But he made that rivalry interesting. But you know what I love seeing is you just watch the Junction, the state fans, they won't be able to take it. They're gonna raise more money because of what's going on at Ole Miss, and as they do that, they'll get better. You mentioned about Jeff Lebby and Lane Kiffin. I would think Kiffin loves the guy because when he was at Ole Miss, they had a lot of success, and who wouldn't want their assistant to get a head coaching job?
Oh no, I would agree with that. I think all coaches want their coaches on their staff to go on and do bigger and better things. And, that's what I've told people on my show, Mississippi State fans particularly, like, hey, if you want to know what this Jeff Lebby product is going to be, just look at your rival. I mean, because it's going to be a mirror image, and it's not because it's a copycat program. It's just the two guys are very similar. They coach together. And Rob, I can remember not too far long ago when Jeff Lebby was at Ole Miss, when there were rumblings of Lane Kiffin possibly flirting with other programs. So there's some flirtation there. Ole Miss fans a lot of them would say, hey, that's okay. We'll just promote Jeff Lebby. So it's going to take some time. There's going to be some bumps and bruises for Lebby this year. There's going to be some good moments. There's going to be some bad moments. But regardless of the fact, I mean, I think they've got the right guy, and I think that he'll put this thing in the right direction.
Yeah. Brenden, what is the RIP SEC Sideline Sports Network over there?
Who knows?
Is that us?
Guys. Yes, it's Buddy.
Oh, hey.
Buddy Martin.
I was going to ask you about this, the picture of your dad playing baseball for the Gators. I just saw that on the attachment.
I haven't seen that.
He just sent that to you and me. All right, let's look at some numbers real quick. Jake, I want to ask you what you're seeing out of the magazine so far. Lindy's and Athlon's is now a paper. It's not like it used to be, but it's 3 times as much, as Chuck said on his show Monday. It's 3 times as expensive, and it's not as cool because, let's face it, when I was a kid, we used to cut all those pictures out and wallpaper the wall with all 10 back then SEC schools. Lindy's is out. I've seen Football Time in Tennessee. What's the top magazine to buy in the state of Mississippi for college football preview that covers the whole state? Because you cover Southern Miss, Alcorn, Jackson State, Mississippi Valley State. You know the state better than anybody, top to bottom.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to go, I think traditional magazines in the state of Mississippi, you're going to go with your Athlons or Lindy's. Now, obviously, Phil Steele magazine is extremely popular. We visit with Phil annually about this time. We'll have him on probably next month to discuss his magazine. But if you're going inside the state of Mississippi, probably a lot of people wouldn't be familiar with this, but a good friend of mine, Chris Brooks, has a online product, and it's also a magazine called Mississippi Gridiron Magazine. And I've worked with Chris on a lot of projects over the years. He does a great job covering high school football, but then also covers Mississippi State and Ole Miss, just what you said, the Delta states, the Jackson states, and does a really, really good job of that. And also Tyler Cleveland, who is the son of legendary writer Rick Cleveland. If you remember Rick Cleveland.
Yeah, great writer. Awesome writer.
Yeah, Tyler is right there in that as well. The bloodline is there. He works for SB Live, a part of the MHSA, Mississippi High School Activities Association. So they do some preview stuff as well. So, it's just one of those situations where you've got some guys that are here from the state of Mississippi and they dedicate their work to those programs. Because a lot of the programs that you referenced, Belhaven, University here in the metro area, Millsaps, Mississippi College, they don't get a whole lot of publicity. So they'll dedicate some time to that. And, we try to hit some of those schools on our show as well, just because they don't get that type of coverage that State or Ole Miss or Southern Miss would get.
Yeah. All right. So what you're seeing so far, I'm just going to throw an example here. We in fact, on the Buddy Martin show last night, they were asking us to give our top 6 in college football. And I didn't have Texas in my top 6, but I think they'll make the playoffs. But I think without Bo Davis, their defensive line won them 3 or 4 games last year. Trevon Sweat is gone. He won the Outland and Lombardi Trophy. They've got players, but you got to be 2 and 3 deep there. Lindy's top 10. I'll throw the top 5 at you first. Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Oregon, and Ole Miss. Anybody that is in there that you don't think deserves to be, at least in the top 5?
No, I think that's fair. I'm sitting here looking at my power rankings. And then, of course, for me, I do things a little different. Everybody does a little different. I have a power ranking going into the season. Then I've already got my final projected poll postseason as well. But I think that's fair. Look, you can make a case. I think most polls you're going to see Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State, and Texas right there at the top. Alabama's going to get a lot of love inside the top, let's just say 8. Penn State's going to be there. Ole Miss is going to be there. And then after that, it's going to be a who's who of who likes who from Florida State, Notre Dame, Tennessee, LSU, Miami, Clemson, Utah. But I think that's fair to say. At the top, those top 5, 6 teams, they're going to be in just about every poll.
Harbaugh, Michigan will be different. But I got to give you credit. Last year, you picked Michigan to win the whole thing, and they did. They're going to have a lot of new faces this year. Is there a surprise out there lurking in the weeds that nobody's really talking about? Because there's always going to be somebody. I think if you look at some national champions, some of them weren't even ranked or they were in the late teens at the preseason polls.
I don't know that necessarily there's a team lurking that can come from, say, the depths or anything of that nature and win this thing this year. The Big 12, I think, is going to be probably one of the funnest leagues to watch just because you've got a plethora of teams from, Utah to Central Florida to Kansas State, Oklahoma State that can win that league. For me, I've again gone with a Big 10 team like I did last year with Michigan. I've got Oregon pegged to win this thing just because of what they have been able to do on the recruiting trail. You look at their wide receiver room; it's the best in college football. Dylan Gabriel's, arguably the best quarterback coming back in college football. Their running back room and what they've done in the transfer portal is really, really big. But if you wanted to take a flyer on somebody, I think you got to look at a school maybe like. And I'm just talking here. We're just talking like, hey, is there somebody laying in the weeds? Maybe like a Tennessee, who maybe Nico comes out of nowhere and he lives up to this hype and he takes that program on like a Michael Penix journey, like Washington last year, or even look at someone like an Oklahoma. Maybe Oklahoma's a little bit better than we think, and their offensive front, which is new Gels. But again, at the top, I think we know who's at the top. Trying to find those flyers, as you said. Yeah.
Dudley, jump in this conversation with Jake. We're just talking about these preseason polls that are coming out, and we've been talking a lot about Ole Miss and State, but everybody has a top 5, but is there any team out there that you're seeing on the horizon? I know you cover Arkansas, and I don't see the Hogs doing it this year, but so they play the games, but I do love Bobby Petrino. He's just got to get players, but any surprises on your list?
Yeah, I tell you, if Arkansas was to do it, I'd be absolutely stunned. The goal for them has to be to get above 500 and go from there. Obviously, having Coach Petrino back, I think is going to open up the offense, and there'll be more people running open. So that's a cool deal. But I'll stay in the SEC. I like what Lane Kiffin has done at Ole Miss. If I'm going to take a flyer on somebody, I'll toss them out there because they certainly had a heck of an NIL effort and landed some folks. And, that's part of the name of the game this time is revamping your roster and revamping it with ready-made players. I think they've got a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, you know what I think NIL, both of y'all are onto it. Right now it's hot, but it's like asking your parents when you were a kid for your allowance for the next 6 weeks. You better do the work or you can't go back and ask for the allowance again. There's only so many times these donors are going to give. And it's funny too, that the people that are giving, some people that have, lots of money are giving $23 a month, and that's all they're going to give. And you heard what Charles Barkley said, guys, last week. He goes, I'll give to Auburn. I'm not giving to NIL because, they remember what they went through, and, it's not easy. It's hard. But Jake, before you go, another question for you. Heisman Trophy right now. I mean, you put out some great numbers, and make sure that we get out there so people can follow what you're doing, because the magazines are coming out, but you've got stuff that's updated on the matrix that's relevant, and every day it can change, and you'll be on top of it. Being that you are a civil engineer, and that makes a difference. Seriously, you're one of the brighter guys out there, and love having you on this show.
Well, thank you. Now, as far as Heisman Trophy is concerned, real quick, I think you're going to have to go. To me, it's a glorified quarterback award. So, I mean, you look at guys, like a Jalen Milroe at Alabama, or a Dylan Gabriel, or at Oregon, or you get into, just pick any of the top quarterbacks. I mean, that's where it's kind of gone, unless you see the big running back at Oklahoma State maybe makes a move this year, and maybe the committee throws him a bone. Let me tell you one flyer before I get out of here. We were talking about flyers. This is just one man's opinion on this. I'm going to tell you who should be really good this year, but their coaching has gotten in the way, and that's the University of Miami, the Hurricanes. When you look at their NIL efforts and the fact that when I crunch numbers on this stuff, Miami has the best pound for pound with Florida State and Clemson talent in the ACC. They've got the best transfer quarterback in Cam Ward. The biggest problem with that team is Mario Cristobal. He's one game above 500 for his career, and he has coached his way out of wins more than anybody in the country. If they can get this thing turned around this year, if they can go in and get a big win in week 1 against Florida, watch Miami this year. They could get interesting this year.
Yeah, and I think from Florida's perspective is this is going to be Falkirk, Bannockburn, those great battles in Braveheart. But I think you're right. I mean, Mario Cristobal was Saban 13 through 16 National Recruiter of the Year twice in those 4 years. Some people are good at buying the groceries, but they ain't worth a damn in the kitchen. Who do you want, Uncle Charlie from My Three Sons or Gordon Ramsay? You want that coach. All right, Jake. Thank you so much for staying on. And as always, let people know how they can follow you. And I'll be on your show anytime. I love going down to the bold new city and being on the radio.
Yeah, we're going to chalk it up. Dudley, I need to get in touch with you as well. Get us an update on Bobby Petrino up there in Arkansas. Just find me on X at Jake Wim. You can stream the show 3 to 6 each day on the zone1059.com, cfbhourglass.com. A lot of previews as well. Guys, take care, and I appreciate it.
Hey, absolutely love it. Appreciate it as well. Hey, Dudley,
the easy answer to that question. The easy answer to that question is Uncle Charlie, because I don't mind learning lessons. I don't mind learning lessons while the food's being prepared or I'm eating it, but I don't need to be yelled at.
Yeah, Uncle Charlie getting yelled at. Yeah. Oh, Gordon Ramsay. Yeah. My friend that worked for him said something one time about making a beef Wellington. And he said something about throwing it. He goes, I've had 1 or 2 of those thrown in my face. He goes, he would literally do that. He said most people didn't last but a couple of nights, but they would say on their resume they worked for Gordon Ramsay. And Roger worked for him for 8 years. And he said it was an experience. I'll say that. It was an experience. All right, Dudley. Magazines are out. We missed you last week. You're good on covering the Hogs and the big picture. We know Arkansas Pine Bluff is coming out that first game, but then you're going to Stillwater. Mm-hmm. Let's just be hypothetical here, which is what we're doing. Say Hogs go on the road and win at Oklahoma State, because Oklahoma State, this is year 19 from Mike Gundy, and they don't lack for much out there. They've got money. I don't know. God only knows how much the trust, the 706, the estate tax return from T. Boone Pickens was, but they got a real strong petroleum engineering school. You want to know where this money's coming from? It's chemical engineering, petroleum engineering. That's a rivalry that isn't played. But I think Arkansas, Oklahoma State, these are backyard rivalries that I think are going to be fun to watch. Let's talk about that game too and the importance of it and
Yeah.
what you know about the Cowboys.
Those teams have played in baseball. They've played in basketball. It's been fun. You love the regional rivalries. I wish Oklahoma State could come on into the SEC as well. I think that would be a good addition as these conferences keep adding teams, and maybe that will happen. But I don't have any problems whatsoever in saying that maybe the Oklahoma State game might be the biggest one Arkansas has all season. We all know that the seat is warm for Coach Pittman up here.
Yeah.
He knows it. Everybody knows it. I think most Razorback fans hope that, as I was saying, that they can, get some momentum going. And here's what's going to happen. You're either going to get a big win that second week at 11 a.m. at Oklahoma State, or you're going to have a loss, and then you're going to be diving into an SEC schedule that is always tough. You've got the opportunity to at least initiate some hope by going over there, and that's going to be a really good football team. We talked about the running back. He's really, really good. Him coming back certainly gives them an opportunity for what we know, more up but that's a good football team that had some great efforts last year, and also had some that you shook your head and wondered what. But I think it's just a huge game. I think Arkansas will get some confidence by going out and playing a UAPB team that obviously would be a major upset, and that might put the seat on fire, obviously. But that second game is just going to be huge. It's perfect for you to go get a win and invigorate your program, or it's detrimental to have right there. And, you go 1-1, and then you've got, road a hole there.
Yeah. And by the way, I now know what I was talking about. Buddy Martin sending a thing, sidelines. It was from Buddy to Brenden and me, RIP. And I just looked at the picture of Willie Mays, man. God, that's, we got the news last night on the show. 93 years old, from Westfield, right there outside of Birmingham. I know you are a baseball, you love it. And that's one of the things I love about having you on here is that you're passionate about everything, but your memories of Willie Mays. And then we're going to talk about, Omaha and everything like that. But as a kid, we're the same age. That was our idol, the say, hey kid. But we're going to miss him.
Yeah, I wanted that athleticism. I wanted to be that type of ball player. One of those things that, those guys that just transcended everything. He was just, you don't hear the word beautiful associated with baseball much, but Willie Mays was just beautiful in the way he played the game, the way he played his life game, what an ambassador he was. I know that they're going to have a big thing, a celebration for him Thursday night when the Giants and Cardinals are playing at Rickwood Stadium there in Birmingham. Which I'm looking forward to watching that game. It's just here's the thing: you can almost find somebody to say something bad about everybody. You never could find anybody to say anything bad about Willie Mays, and that speaks to his character. It speaks to the way he carried himself. It speaks to the way that guys like me growing up loving baseball just envisioned themselves as him.
Yeah. I can't tell you, and I think you would say the same thing, and I'm sure Vince Ferrara as a kid, how many times we had our parents stop by and get gas so we could buy baseball cards or DX trading stamps. And I'm going to tell you what, that's what annuitized us and the sport, Willie Mays. You just think about this. Everybody wanted to make that catch, and we referenced last night the catch by the Clemson player, Camarello, in the Florida game in the Super Regional, the references were to Willie Mays. And what I hate it because that game coming up at Rickwood Field in Birmingham, where Willie Mays is from, Hank Aaron was from Mobile. I think he went to Murphy High School, but or maybe he may have gone to Blunt. I'm not sure if it was Murphy or Blunt, but and Willie McCovey may have been another one from down here. But Vince, you're a baseball historian. By the way, Dudley, get the Sports Animal app on your phone and listen to when Vince and John Wilkerson, the voice of the Tennessee Vol Baseball Network, And Vince, you're really good.
Already there. I've been listening. Already there. I've been listening.
I'm telling you, Vince, we're driving all over.
I was driving back. I guess it was I forget, Friday or Saturday. Listening that, and I was thinking, I know that dude.
Mm-hmm. He's really good.
Y'all do a great job. Obviously, what an exciting finish there, and I think Florida State's coach was having there late in the ball game, but obviously Tony and them have done a great job, and y'all do a great job. I'm such a big, pictures are cool, visuals are cool, but I'm such a big fan of the game being depicted on the radio. Somebody setting the stage. Y'all do a great job with that, and I think it was really cool listening to y'all.
Yeah, I ditto what he just said. The son of Mama Ferrara. I love it.
Appreciate it. Yeah, John Wilkerson, the longtime voice of the Vols, who has absolutely become a legend with all of his incredibly excited calls at the end of games. I mean, his legend grows with each one, and his call at the end of that Florida State game has had people talking all weekend for sure. So wish I was in Omaha, but it's still exciting. Tennessee's never been 2-0 in the Men's College World Series before. A&M, interestingly enough, also 2-0. They have never been 2-0 to start a college World Series. So definitely exciting times with the what ifs that are there for the Vols and the SEC, who's holding it down right now in the SEC tournament 2.0 or the VIP tournament in the Southeastern Conference as they're the, sort of the last team standing except for one.
Yeah, a lot of baseball today. If y'all can keep the rain away, I guess I'm looking forward to that.
Right.
Got the TV ready to go at 10.
Yeah, I'm with Dudley. It's going to be an awesome day today. How many times? Like, look at the Gators. They've got their work cut out for them. But again, I've heard this a lot on SEC Network with Todd Walker and the crew. They're doing a great job covering it. They've been with their backs to the wall in elimination games in the regional, in Stillwater, the super regional at Clemson. It's pressure if you make it pressure, Vince. Talk about the mindset of these teams that are out there right now. 4 out of 5 are from the SEC. So it's not a guarantee, but it's almost a guarantee the SEC is going to win another national championship in another sport.
Yeah, well, here's a couple crazy stats on that. First, on what you mentioned with Florida, it even goes back to the end of the regular season, guys, where they were playing just to stay above 500 overall to get into the tournament. And there was even debate on whether they should be in. And we've been there, done that with Ole Miss and them cashing in when they were thought to be the last team in the tournament. So when I've said this before, when Tennessee and Florida played earlier this year and the Vols won 2 of 3, I knew at that point not they were going to make a deep run and maybe win the national championship, but I thought this team is dangerous. They were inconsistent at the time, weren't playing their best ball, but they still have some big-time arms on that team. They still have one of the best players, arguably the best in all of college baseball, and Jack Caglione. So it was just a matter of time. And, oh, by the way, a coach that gets him there when he gets to the postseason, especially those super regionals. So it's like 9 in the last 14 or 8 in the last 14, something like that. So Kevin O'Sullivan knows how to get guys ready and get the most of them at the right time. So will they have the pitching to sustain moving forward? This third game is tough. And then if they win, they have to come back on the same day. That really tests what kind of guys they have that will be in elevated roles today. And then obviously Kentucky will be plenty motivated, who hadn't lost an NCAA tournament game until they ran into Texas A&M's A. So that Florida team is still dangerous as long as they're still alive. But yeah, what was the first part or the second part of your question, Rob? I'm sorry.
Just the pressure, the mindset. You've got 4 of the 5 teams left are SEC schools, and that league that you play in makes you better. and it's proof right now.
But yeah, Tony Vitale was talking about it yesterday when he did a little avail with the Knoxville area media there in Omaha. And this was prior to NC State getting or North Carolina getting eliminated, when it was down to the last 6. I totaled up the total NCAA appearances for the last 6 teams left, like I said, which included North Carolina and included this year. All those teams with big programs and great consistency of winning in college baseball had a combined 66 College World Series appearances with 1 national championship out of those last 6 teams standing, and that was Florida in 2017. That's how hard it is to win. So, I mean, think about Florida State obviously leads that group with 24, and then North Carolina's been there half dozen times, and they've been runners up a couple of times. And, Florida's only cashed in once in getting there a bunch of times. So it is really hard to do it. But when you're 2-0, a lot of the national champions come from that 2-0 spot. It's not a guarantee, but it's a big advantage. LSU didn't need it last year, but nobody has Paul Skeens. So you need any advantages you can get.
Hey, man, the ACC's learning. I mean, I'm sitting there the other day thinking, of all the times, I don't care whether it's the 2nd inning, the 8th inning, or 9th inning, you don't pitch to Cax. And, he just ran right into him. And you knew it was going to happen, especially when he didn't go out and pitch well that first inning. I thought he's going to impact him somehow. And I know the open was 3rd. I'm telling you, and you talk all the time. Don't let that beat us. Well, that guy beat you.
Yeah. Well, let me say something real quick too. Talk about going the distance. Say something about one of our sponsors, Coolmore Logistics and Transportation, Memphis-based with a global reach. Anything you need moved. Let's say you're a citrus farmer down in Central Florida in Avon Park or Sebring or Lake Wales, and you got to move oranges to Seattle, to Costco. They can ship it anywhere. Lumber, steel coils, cotton, seed, rice, anything, full load, van, LTL. They can do all of it. Everything in this country comes in on a ship. It's put on a train, and then you go to the intermodal yard, and it's put on a truck. Coolmore Logistics. I stopped by the office yesterday to see Robert Weaver and John Dickin and the crew. They've got an awesome setup. They've got the computers everywhere. They get a request. There's a load that needs to go from point A to point B. They post it, and their phone blows up, and they will outwork anybody. Great people. Coolmore Logistics and Transportation. Again, Memphis-based with a global reach. Got to say something real cool. I love Kerry Jones up in Lebanon or Gallatin, Tennessee. I worked for the Mobile Bay Bears for a couple of years in the front office. Answered the phone one day, and it was the great Henry Hank Aaron. We had a Hank Aaron night coming up. I'll never forget it. And I love Perry Mason. Playing today helped the Gators bullpen, but rough playing again today. Hank Aaron grew up on the Tallmanville community and went to Central High School, which I'm not familiar with. It may not even be around him. I thought he went to Murphy. I know Vince Dooley went to Murphy High School in Mobile. Dudley, let's get back and forth on this baseball. And I noticed the garden in the background for the Celtics and an ode to the Celtics. But the interest in college baseball, it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Is it because we have the SEC network dedicating so much time to it and we're getting familiar with these people? And when you meet somebody and you get to know them and you feel like you have a relationship, even though it's on TV, you're more interested, because even in the 90s when LSU was just kicking ass and winning 5 national championships with Skip Bertman, the interest was there, but I don't think it's close to what it is now. And we haven't even talked. Well, I want your thoughts on that, because you're a great writer.
Well, I think it's getting the proliferation of it being on TV a lot more, I think, helps. But also, I think, and I'm going to pat the media on the back here, I think they're doing a much better job in getting stuff out there. There being more platforms that you talk about, and they're getting more on personal stories of college players, just like they, have been in the past. when the MLB's been star driven.
Yeah.
I do think it's a combination of a lot of things. The talent is better. Obviously, I don't know the exact numbers, but I know there's a lot more players coming in to play college baseball. It used to just go right on to the pros. And I know that, the draft's just 20 rounds now and all that, when it used to be like 270, it seems like. But I just think it's a better product. It's more available to be watched. And the overall, output or there's just more for people to latch onto, and it is not as it hasn't gone away. And I'm not bagging on college football, I'm not bagging on college basketball, but we don't hear so much about the NIL in baseball. We hear about them striving to win, not striving to get endorsed.
Yeah, and I know it goes on and stuff, but baseball, there's something magical, Vince Ferrara, and you captured that. I mean, you and John together, and I like to say it's like Flatt and Scruggs up there because y'all feed off of each other. John has this powerful voice that makes every play exciting, and you do the same thing as color analyst. I mean, it's like there's such a sense of urgency when you listen to baseball on the radio. And if you look at, anyone our age, they go to a baseball game, they've got the game on their ears. You get lost inside of a 50, 60, 70, 100,000 seat stadium at a football game without radio. And you do the same thing in baseball. And by the way, Vince and Dudley, if you go to Barnes & Noble bookstore right now, there's a book in the up front section, at least in Memphis. It's all the great baseball venues, past and present, for $20. It's on sale. It's about that thick. I highly recommend it, Vince Ferrara.
I will check that out. Yeah, I don't get a chance to go on the road like I would like. So, yeah, can't wait to get to see those and then make some trips after that happen. But, what people do now is Vols fans have kind of termed it John Warding, and that is syncing up your radio to the TV and listening to the radio broadcast, which is a huge compliment. And it's no offense to the national guys, because like a former Vol and Chris Burke, I think is as good as it gets in terms of analyst. Yeah. But I think people still want that connectivity, the description that goes on with the radio call. So that happens. But look, the TV numbers are out of this world. And I thought Dudley hit on a lot of the key points and why that's happening. The shrinking of the draft is squeezed the talent down into college baseball more. So because of that, the game is better. It is a better product. It's never been better right now. Also, college baseball is doing a better job of showing that in Major League Baseball, if you get better in the college game, that you can run through the minor league system much quicker. And that's a huge selling point. And then also the transfer portal has moved a lot of the talent from those mid-majors up to the power. So the rich are getting richer, and Tony Vitello has mentioned that and admitted that. That's why it was SEC, ACC invitational, because everybody's got mid-majors that have never played better ball or developing and helping themselves for pro ball because of the portal. So those are all products of why the game is better. But look, the TV numbers are unbelievable. The College World Series, through the first 6 games, was the most watched on record, an average of 1.2 million. The Tennessee-North Carolina game the other night, I guess it was Sunday night, had 1.7 million on ESPN2. So a lot of times, honestly, when Tennessee's involved, you're going to have the biggest numbers or some of the biggest numbers. But it continues to grow. It's an awesome thing. But the product delivers when it's on TV. It's not maybe as appealing to the networks as softball is, because softball is exciting. You can package it into 2 hours. It stays on time more often than not. There's great energy there, and it's cheaper to produce. Baseball is a little bit more expensive, but it's still a quality product. And as long as those numbers continue to be great, advertisers will be on board. They'll get more spots. How about the fact, and I don't remember this happening before, maybe it has, but game 2 on Sunday of the College World Series Finals, that's at 2 p.m. on ABC. I can't remember the last time college baseball was on one of the broadcast networks. It's always been on ESPN or ESPN2 or whatever. On ABC, game 2 on Sunday. I love that.
Yeah. Well,
here's another thing I want to toss out there. It helps to have personalities. Now, I know there's some here in this state of Arkansas that don't like Tony. I've made it clear how much I love him and how much he's the guy I used to be back in high school and all that, says what he wants. When he gives a passionate speech like he did, after the Evansville series,
yes.
And it's great for college baseball. I mean, the fact that you care, the fact that you can criticize him, as much as you want, but when he gives a passionate speech like that, lodge the other team, lodge the other player, I think it helps when you have personalities in the game now. And I think there's more than there used to be. And it's also celebrated more as, I said, the proliferation of being able to get it on TV. I thought that was fantastic what he said. And, I don't root for teams. I don't root for individuals, but I root for stories and I root for interesting narratives. And that was certainly one of them. And I thought that was great. It helps out college baseball.
Yeah, and I think, what Tony Vitello said about don't come here with your hand out. We know guys are getting NIL, but it's not out there in the front. It's like nobody goes up and asks somebody how much money they make. That's rude. That's not part of the social norms that we follow. And I'm totally with you, Dudley. I love competitors. I love fiery, passionate guys that find ways to win. Tony Vitello, I remember it was a Sunday afternoon in 2017 when it was announced he was leaving Arkansas and going to Tennessee. And I think about all my friends at the SAE house at Tennessee that used to sit out there before they messed it up. They had a great view on the patio there at Lindsey Nelson Field. And Bubba Halliday, our intern William's father, I think he took a broadcasting class from Lindsey Nelson, the great broadcaster. I mean, Lindsey Nelson doing Notre Dame football. You can't get any better, those replays on Sundays. Here's O'Malley to Fitzgerald to O'Leary and the Irish wing. I mean, God, Lindsey Nelson was so good, and he took time to teach and give back at Tennessee. And they've kept that name on the baseball field, Lindsey Nelson. Him, Kurt Gowdy, and Charlie Jones, again, some of my favorite announcers of all time. All right, Vince, here's a question. I'm going to throw this at you, and this isn't going to get you in trouble. I'm just going to say it. We got all this NIL for athletes. Why not have it for broadcasters? Why don't they say, hey, get a sponsor and say, we're sending the whole crew out there. I know somebody's got to stay back behind and mind the shop. And also want to compliment both of y'all, as all of our guests are. Y'all are so, I really appreciate it because I love getting an Arkansas and a Tennessee, but y'all can cover all the bases. That's a baseball term. But I appreciate it so much. It's what makes this show different. Is because you get different perspectives, and we allow free speech. The unfasten your seatbelt signs up. Feel free to walk around the cabin. You can smoke, you can drink, do whatever you want on this show. So thank y'all both for doing that. And Vince, this game, Tennessee 2 years ago had 57 wins when they lost at home in the Super Regional to the Fighting Irish. Okay, now they're at 57. Have we ever had an SEC team get to 60 wins? Either one of y'all know that? Because we're getting into historically deep into the weeds here.
I'm not aware of that stat. I know this will be game 70 for Tennessee, which I don't believe has happened before in their program history, which is amazing to play that many college baseball games. But it is uncharted territory. This team, I said it earlier in the year, I thought was more prepared because things weren't easy for them like they were 2 years ago to where they could handle it. The SEC prepared them with more of a grind of winning those rubber games to be able to have postseason success. More work to do, but it is a different team that has taken their lumps. Just real quick on that Florida State comeback win, which was incredible. And you talk about great TV. That game was great TV and drama. Here's how improbable that comeback was, where the Vols were down 3 and scored 4 in the bottom of the ninth. Going into that game, in the previous 185 Men's College World Series games, the team that led going into the ninth was 176-9. That's with just the lead. I mean, that could have been a 1-run in many occasions or whatever, much less a 3-run lead. That's how low of a probability of winning that Tennessee had. And then they had 4 3-2 counts. Obviously, a lot of people were talking about the check swing with Blake Burke, which, debatable depending on whatever side you're on. But then he gets a new life, and he laces a single up the middle. Christian Moore hitting for the cycle, which was, by the way, it's on a short list of best individual Tennessee sports performances of all time. And that's how amazing it was. Only one other player has ever hit for the cycle at the Men's College World Series. A 440-foot home run. He hit for the cycle by the 6th. He had a key double in that 9th inning that put 2 in scoring position for Burke. They had 4 2-out hits with the game on the line. Incredible. And everybody talks about, they hit a whole bunch of home runs. How are they going to adjust to the big ballpark? Well, now they're hitting doubles and triples, and sack flies. They're finding other ways because their approach is right. And it was in that game to come back, and they had the fortitude to do it. And then a much different game, much cleaner, not the errors and the walks that they had in game 1.
Yeah.
You can't do that too often, but they were much better in game 2. But, man, it's just been impressive what they've done the first couple of games.
All right, question from one of our viewers, Jim Nafee. Is Mr. Burke related to Chris Burke by any chance?
No.
I got that question from Jim Nafee and Alvin C. York.
No
relation. Okay.
No relation there. Okay. And by the way, Chris Burke should be on the Tennessee Baseball Hall of Fame. He should be out there in the outfield. He is not. They need to put the number 2 up there because he and Todd Helton pretty much cover the record books for Tennessee baseball.
Yeah. Dudley?
I want to go back to Christian. He's, you could talk about different players that should get All-American honors, should get the Golden Spikes and all that. If there was just a dude award, just award for a dude. He's a dude. Does anything that you need to happen, and he does it with passion, and he does it, to me, he does it with a flair, but he doesn't do it too cocky and all those kind of things. He's good. He knows he's good. And he's just great to watch. There are so many great players in the SEC this year, and we could list a whole bunch of them. I don't think there was any other players in the nation outside of maybe 4 in the SEC that really deserve the Golden Spikes. But I just love, I just love watching dudes, and that's a dude.
Made himself a lot of money in Omaha. Mm-hmm. Now, how high they move him up in the draft, it's still, to me, it's surprising that he's not moving up more in some mocks, but he's pro ready in a lot of ways. And you're spot on, Dudley, in the things you said about him. Tennessee didn't think he was going to make it to campus because they thought he was going to go pro, and he kind of had that mindset, but he put out a big number to them and then decided to come to Tennessee. And boy, there's so many of those stories where they didn't think guys would get on campus. They'd go take the money from high school, and he's gotten better every single year. He's as good as in at bat and in-game adjustments as anybody, always defending his team, but he's put in the work too. And he volunteered to go into center field when Hunter Ensley went slamming into that wall.
Yeah.
And came out of the game. He was like, "Coach, I want to go to center." He's like, "Love you, man. You've been out there a couple innings, but we need you at second base." So we're good. We got some other guys to do it.
Well, and you think about the crew, the broadcast crews, ABC. We're going to start having that in college football this year, ESPN and ABC. I don't know what the music is, but I'm going to guess. I'm just going to guess that the new, we had that, CBS had that iconic music with all those years, dun, 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 dun. I say they do a little Leonard Skinner, Give Me 3 Steps. That needs to be the new theme music. That's got some power to it. Can't do Sweet Home Alabama because that would favor Auburn and Alabama too much. Can't do that. Can't. By the way, everybody knows where Leonard Skinner was from, Jacksonville, Florida. So they're not from Birmingham, okay? They love the governor. But, God, man. All right, guys, we'll wrap it up here in a few minutes. And I really, really appreciate y'all coming on with us as always. And you look at the interest, 1.7 million people watching a game. That's probably as many people are watching the primetime network news on cable. And I don't even know who the news anchors are for network news anymore. But 1.7 million, that's a powerful number. You think we can hit over 3 million for the best 2 out of 3? Do either one of y'all think we can do that?
Ooh, Dudley, what do you think?
Depends on whether Caitlin Clark has a game on or not.
Hey, they got Christian Moore.
I mean, you talk about drawing eyeballs, you know.
Yeah. All right, another one. All right, who's the best? Okay, 3 million's a big mark, but think about these legends now. Jack Caglione, Christian Moore, those 2 guys. Holy cow, Vince. Cags, he pitches and he hits, but there's a lot of future Hall of Famers playing right now, I think.
Well, there's a lot of guys that are going to have their name called in the first round of the MLB draft. I mean, seemingly everybody's got a couple of them. Moore and Amick likely for Tennessee. Florida State has a couple. North Carolina with Vance Honeycutt, but he's out. He's a top 5 player in all college baseball. I'd say Caglione probably has the most name recognition around the country over the last couple of years, but I'm not sure that anyone is more entertaining, no pun intended, to Christian Moore. By the way, nobody in Chris Burke had the stat. He's the first second baseman in college baseball history to hit over 30 home runs at that position. And he was a Triple Crown winner in the Southeastern Conference, the elite league in college baseball. So he can go on and on. But the game is played at such a high level, and all the close games too. You talk about helping your ratings. When you got drama in close games and that it's played at a high level, and also they've sped up the game some, not as much as Major League Baseball. I think they can still help that. There'll be another progression in the future. I think there's ways to cut out some of the fat from time to time, especially with pitching changes and visits and stuff. I think they can do more. Major League Baseball has benefited from it big time. Major League Baseball set an attendance record last weekend in average, according to Front Office Sports, at over 37,000 on average. That was the best since like 2008. So packaging that game and speeding up the sport will only help you in terms of those TV numbers. So there's room for improvement, but it's a great product right now.
I have one other thing I want to add about the College World Series this year. If you've been in a rain delay and you've had several alcoholic beverages, please do not come down near the dugout and yell, or you will never be invited to Omaha in the stadium again.
All I can say,
ridiculous. And I know the backstory and all that, but there's a time and a place. That was neither the time or the place. But those 2 dudes look like just the 2 dudes that I thought would do that.
Well, and let me say this.
Ends up sort of looking for praise afterwards.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, looking at Kevin O'Sullivan, I don't know him, but he looks like he hits the weights pretty hard.
Yes.
I say let him go down there and get in.
He looks like Sergeant Carter from Gomer Pyle.
Yeah, you gonna mess with a muscled up Irishman, Irish Catholic? I don't think so. All right. Let me say this. Awesome stuff today. Dudley, let them know how they can follow you and what's your story, what you're writing about right now. Same thing with you, Vince, and then we'll tag out. But we live in the greatest country in the history of the world, people. Every day, find excuses to win. Go make somebody's day by letting them know they matter. Dudley, close us out.
And then Vince. We're doing a lot of recruiting and, with baseball recruiting and softball and all that, and obviously football still. So we got plenty of the stories on the night team sports that Arkansas has here on hogville.net. And I'm also firing back up the high school machine and going to some 7-on-7 camps, calling some coaches, starting to look at next season in terms of that as I continue to make my way around the state, remembering my youth and remembering the glory days.
I love it. And we're lucky to get to read it, man. Thank you. Vince?
Yeah, good job with that, Dudley, and everything. You can follow me on all the socials. My personal handle on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter /X is Vince Sports, VINCE Sports. The show is Sports Talk on 991. Sports Talk on 991, putting a lot of content on there. And then, if you can find the Vol Network either on Learfield, the Varsity app, or on our website, 991thesportsanimal.com, you can hear John Wilkerson's calls, the radio calls from Omaha. And you can find podcasts of our show there as well. And guys, I've been doing, we do like at least one segment of college football every day. So look forward to talking about some more college football and playoff scenarios, which sometimes include Tennessee. Kind of interesting for the year.
Hey, well, we're going to do it again next Wednesday. Support all of our sponsors at sidelines.live and buy Florida oranges from great folks like Perry Mason, a hard farmer down in Lake Placid, Florida. And check out these hats, Oxford and Starkville. You can get them at Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. HewlettandDunn.com. All the great boots and clothing. HewlettandDunn.com. They'll ship anywhere. And let me tell you something. We thank all of our listeners. We are here to serve. Have a great day. Man, those are good-looking boots. We'll see you tomorrow.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.